Hi, this is David Gornoski, host of A Neighbor's Choice and Things Hidden podcast, as well as some of our other programs like Science and You with our chief science advisor, Dr. Yu, and our seed oil survival series that we continue to have great fun unpacking the truth of nutrition. I wanted to give you a quick little message saying we appreciate all the support that we get from our monthly contributors and our one-time donation supporters, and we'd encourage all of you to go to our website, aneighborschoice.com, click on contribute, and make a monthly pledge today, whether it's $1, $5, $15, $20, $50, whatever you want to do. Doesn't matter. Just be a part of building this new media project that we've developed to empower and inform, to inspire, to kickstart a scientific renaissance, an anthropological breakthrough and reformation in the church. All these things are possible with your support right now. So make that commitment today and help us keep doing the productions that we have. Thank you. And he said half those people are animals. They're not even people. What was his name? Sorghum molasses.
Like Burgum or
Doug Burgum Sorghum.
Yeah.
And what's he running for? He's running to try to make Montana great again, or what? What's his deal?
Is he from Montana?
Where's he from? South Dakota, North Dakota, North Pole?
Doug Burgum.
And what does he do?
He is the governor of North Dakota.
He's a governor?
Yeah. The governor of North Dakota, and he's from a town that has 300 people in it, and I think North Dakota is right next to the North Pole.
Yeah.
That's his pitch for why you should vote for him for president. Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
you don't want to be on his naughty list.
So he's trying to set himself up as a Christ figure. I come from a small town, basically a manger-like setting is where I've arrived from. I'm near the North Pole, so I've got Santa-like qualities.
He's from Bethlehem.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Galilee.
The capital of North Dakota, I think, it's Bismarck, isn't it? So Bethlehem and Bismarck, they both start with a B. So.
Yeah. Governor Sorghum.
Yeah.
Sorghum molasses. It's amazing how quickly that debate has been totally eclipsed by the spectacle of what happened with President Trump last night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Georgia was popping off all through the streets. You could see it. Pecans were flying. I tried to get close to the event. I tried to get close to the event, but the traffic was so bad I had to turn around. But I mean, it was just a wild experience. Every station in the area was playing DMX songs at the same time. It was just, I don't know what, but they felt the need to bring that back for Trump's arrival in the Fulton County Jail.
Look, Shane said all the peaches dried up.
Yeah.
Sad when all the peaches dry up, man.
I think they're going to try to put at least Rudy Giuliani in the same room where that man was found eaten alive by bed bugs and lice at the Fulton County Jail. Did you hear about that?
Yes.
They hadn't heard about the guy. That place is a jail where you can disappear for months and years and nobody even knows where you've been. As long as you don't scale the outer wall with the turrets and the guns, you disappear in there because they found a guy there. They thought he was a human. It was just a shell of a human from lice and bed bugs had consumed him. I mean, that's the kind of place we're going to put all these political opponents. And it's a pretty surreal moment. Shannon, what did you think as you saw your president, Donald J. Trump? Of course, you don't question the election. You don't question the election, Shannon. You dutifully, dutifully accept the election results. And Shannon, by the way, will put that mask on as soon as they say, please put it back. But just to put all that algorithm to bed, to rest, for Shannon's sake. Shannon, what was going through your mind when you saw Donald John Trump coming into the Fulton County Jail last night?
I don't know, man. It was, you know, it was, you know, I mean, you knew it was gonna. He said he was gonna go, right? So I just was like, okay, I just kind of want to see if he's actually gonna show up and go, you know, and turn himself in.
You thought he was gonna get. You thought he might get cold feet and barricade him in the door like a mob boss.
Yeah, he'd be like, you know,
like Saddam Hussein hiding in a sewer.
Yeah, you know, like, oh, I was just kidding with you guys. You really think I'm about to go to jail, dog? You know, but he went in there, you know, and you know, I think he gained more brownie points. You know, he did a talk the day before that got brownie points. He didn't show up to the debate, did his own talk. Then he went to jail, you know, like.
And then he returned to Twitter on the same night. So he had a big 24 hours.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
That's a, you know, that's sort of a, you know, you might say like a charismatic figure. You know what I mean? He has that charismatic attitude. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people, they like that. Whether or not, I think even people who would say, "Oh, I never vote for him," they're probably like, "Man, that's a bad dude, right? You got you gotta have some serious cojones to, you know, to do a talk, then go ahead and go in jail and then come back out and get on social media again." You know, most people lay low. You know, they did a crime. They're like, "Oh, I don't want to talk." You know, but.
And he made a little advertisement, and his Twitter was just a link to his website, donaldjtrump.com, and then it had a little image made from Microsoft Paint 95, where it's like Times New Roman font, and it says, you know, here's my mugshot, and he says, never surrender. And the reason why he said that is because Drudge Report top headline is his mugshot, and it says surrenders, you know? So he wanted to respond to that and say, never surrender. But and then he says in that little campaign ad, when you click it, he says, now, if you have been hurt by this economy and you ain't got any money, don't even worry about donating. Don't even worry about it. So I thought that
he's got it covered.
Yeah.
He's got it covered, man.
I don't know if he's got it covered for all the bills or all the other guys that got, you know, guys and girls. These are random attorneys and stuff that are just, some of these attorneys just replied to an email and they got it. This is something that the conservatives have really never fully understood, the way the law works with these RICO type charges, where it's like you get all the things done by other people added up to your charge when all you did was reply and say, yeah, sounds like a good idea. Maybe they didn't win Georgia. If you say that in an email, then they put you in the whole conspiracy charge. That's how it works. And they do that all the time for like drugs and stuff. So like, you know, somebody sells a drug, and then their cousin one time on an email said, yeah, I'll take you to FedEx Kinko, you know, to get some business cards. Now that guy that said, I'll take you to FedEx Kinko to get your business cards for your plumbing company, that guy gets labeled with all the things that their cousin ever did to sell drugs. Now this happens all the time. Now people like, you know, me, that I work in the criminal justice reform space with some great folks like Amy Pova, Can Do Clemency Foundation, people like Rufus Rochelle, and other folks. We're very familiar with this. This is how a lot of people get ruined in the system. That's why they take plea deals, right? Because it's like you get this RICO case built against you, and you're facing like all these crimes that somebody else did that you never even knew added on to you. You're facing back-to-back life sentences. You'll say, oh, shoot, okay, I'll say I'm guilty and get, 10 years or 15 years in prison versus back-to-back life sentences. So you got to be really bold and gutsy to actually go to trial with these things. So the conservative America is going to get a crash course understanding as to how the system actually works. And we'll see what happens. Shane, what was going through your mind when you saw your president, Donald J. Trump, uh, touching down in Atlanta, going through the parade, and getting that mugshot. And they were really mad online, by the way, because his weight clocked in at 215. They were furious, man. They wanted him to be so overweight that they could make fun, but they couldn't, because a clean 215 at 6'3" isn't bad, in terms of the way that looks. So,
well, first of all, it's the greatest mugshot I've ever seen in my life. And it's the next step on Donald Trump's hero arc.
Yeah.
It's like, so obviously down the road there is going to be a redemption for him, and there's going to be like a restoration for him as the rightful king. Yeah, like that is. Yeah, it just seems like that's the arc that he's on right now, and I think people can see it and people can feel it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't personally. There are a lot of things I don't like about Donald Trump, but just as somebody, as somebody watching him, I think that's something that people can objectively see, sense, and feel is that he's on a hero arc. And he is approaching the belly of the whale right now. He's going into the dark place, and he's going to come out of the dark place fully redeemed and ready to be president again.
There are people showing videos of his motorcade with all the cars going by in some of the lower income neighborhoods of Georgia and Atlanta, and that people are shouting, "Free Donald Trump, free Trump, free Trump," and it kind of reminded me of a kind of like, this is a big Americana moment, where everybody gets to see, you know what I mean? Like, the folks in the deep, the deep ghetto of Atlanta, they're not typically the base that Trump was necessarily branded with. And yet there's a kind of an affinity to it because of the fact that this is the first president that's going to face criminal charges. There's a kind of solidarity that happens, I think, on a visceral level when folks who feel that the system is rigged against them, that they can't get good attorney representation, they can't get a fair shake, that they're going after the people for victimless, nonviolent crimes, which is what Trump's facing, all victimless, nonviolent crimes. No victim, no crime is the principle that A Neighbor's Choice was started on, and it's kind of poetic that this now is becoming the big story for the whole world to process. But there's something that transcends the left-right partisan divide programming when you see the spectacle of a president who you used to see as a game show host and a character from the 80s or 90s or whatever your generation is, now becoming like paraded from a mugshot. There's a kind of it becomes a Robin Hood, doesn't it? A kind of a Robin Hood figure, a folk hero.
Yeah. I think he's, it's they had a meme, where he was being depicted as Caesar, and everybody around him was like, the Senate, they were murdering him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that's the sort of, figure I think he's turned into, like he's a martyr and at the same time he's a hero, because the more they do to him, it's like all the people that are sort of seen as deplorables, all the people that are seen as wayward, they're not good citizens. Those are all the people that are going to come out for him in 2024. You know what I mean? There is a sense of solidarity because they feel like, he actually knows what it's like to be one of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they can sense that and they sympathize with it, and I think a lot of people, they also like the fact that he just says what's on his mind, like he says what he feels, and he doesn't really care how people, see him. He's just like, I'm the people's champ. I'm gonna, say how I feel about it. When he came out of jail, he said, you should be allowed to say that you think the vote was stolen. That should not be a crime. That's that's perfectly fine to do. But of course, when you're dealing with the legal system, they'll try and tell you, there are things you cannot say. And what do they say? Ignorance is no excuse for breaking the law,
Right.
stuff like that, but it's the only thing that they can muster up now, to try and stop him from
It's
becoming
funny,
president.
the media was covering the entire thing for hours, but when he finally did his press conference at the end, they would not cover it. Did you know that? CNN and all them, they would not cover
Yeah.
it. Just shows you the Orwellian stupidity of these idiots. Are they dumb enough? Do they really think that people can't see that, or do they just playing with their base? They're like, we got my TV base, and if my TV base doesn't see him, they won't know that we broke away from covering him, except for that we covered everything, waiting hours and hours to see his plane touchdown, waiting hours and hours to see a car drive by a street. But then when he wants to say a comment, oh, break away.
Yeah.
Is there any dumb person, Shane, a lot of these liberal people, these TV party people, do they ever stop and think, that's a little weird? You know what I mean? Do they ever stop and think, man, that my favorite channel, CNN or whatever else they're watching, man, they've been covering it the whole time. Then when it's finally here for him to hear what he has to say, they cut away. Do they stop and say, that's a little Orwellian? That's a little weird? Or are they just say, no, they're protecting me from his lies or something? Like, what's going on in that brain?
Well, I don't think they're aware of it. And the reason I don't think they're aware of it is that the mainline media, by varying degrees, they all have kind of the same bias. They're all slanted to the left. They're all anti-Trump. That's the path of least resistance, is to pay attention to that and absorb that as your narrative. You have to consciously say, I'm going to pursue news and facts and a counter narrative from another source. You have to go and actively look online and find another source. You have to go onto Twitter and find another source, or you have to talk to people. You have to think things through. So I think what you end up having is people that are the mainline liberals. They just take whatever's handed down to them from on high as just being the absolute truth, because that's all that they know. Conservatives, and then third party people like Green Party people, libertarians, whatever. Those are people that are kind of outside of the mainline narrative, so they are used to having to kind of pursue to pursue what they would call the truth, which is the entirety of what's happening, not just the little curated narrative that's spoon fed to you, that's spoon fed by the legacy media.
What do you think it is that makes you an uncurious mind to never, ever question giant corporate media outlets? Like year after year after year, they give you COVID. You find out they've got to know some of that was not true. And then, they get all these lies after lies after lies. What is it of the brain type that just doubles down on stupid, just no matter what, I'm a ride or die with stupidity, with corporate murder, psychopath media. What does it take for them to peel off of that? It's certainly not a liberal mind. Let's face that. The Vietnam War, you had to be a true liberal to some degree to say, I don't think we need to go to this war. You had to do something, but yet those people absorb that into their life. They absorb Vietnam as like this dissident moment into their life as, yes, that was really true. But yet they don't even think for one moment that same apparatus could be hoodwinking them. They just can't. And I don't understand how they live with their brain like that.
Yeah.
Creepy.
I think that it's probably two things. I think one is when you endure hardship or suffering, I think it makes you think twice about what the mainline narrative of something is.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Just in general. And then I think the other aspect would be, if you don't really have a sense of your place in time, if you're just a rootless, traditionless, um, individual who really has no sense of history, who has no sense of really what's come before you except just a bunch of victim narratives, um, then I do think you're just going to trust whatever's sold to you, because that's the framework that the media presents things from today. It's all about a victim oppressor, an oppressor victim. That's the whole narrative. And what they say is, if that dynamic is not there, if that framework is not there, then it's not true. Then you're not receiving the whole truth. But the thing that the truth of it is that you can find victim oppressor relationships in a lot of situations, but that's not the entirety of the situation. And I think the reason that they do that is they want to hone in on a situation so that they can control the narrative by defining who the victim is and who the oppressor is. In the case of Donald Trump, they think they're being successful in labeling Donald Trump as being the oppressor, and like the intelligence agencies as being the victims. Donald Trump as being the oppressor and the pharmaceutical companies as being the victims.
So
Donald Trump is the oppressor, the World Economic Forum is the victim.
like John Brennan's one of those guys. Now, a lot of people believe
Yeah.
that he was involved with, to some degree, the explosion of Michael Hastings. Remember him? One of the last journalists on the left that was integrity driven. Remember his
Yes.
car just sped up really fast and flew off into a palm tree and was exploded from it looked like there was a force that was coming up and just
Yeah.
coming up underneath the carriage of the car. Now, if you were to sit the average McWokester down and play that clip, that and if you were to basically show them John Brennan blew that guy up, and this guy was trying to report on some of the creepy war crime stuff going on, could they process it? That John Brennan saying, guy, hey, you're a monster. He monster. He blow up people, explode journalists. Could they process that? I don't know. Would they have to be allowed to? Would they have to get a hall pass from their TV to be able to process it?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing is, like, I think this is a generational thing. Younger people, our age and younger, don't really pay attention to the news to begin with. We don't sit long enough to watch something like that happen. We don't listen to headlines and things like that. And those of us who do, we're looking for something other than CNN every day. So it's a generational thing, and I think older. I'm not picking on boomers, okay, but that generation tends to sit down and take in CNN. They're gonna digest that, and maybe it's a comfort zone thing. It's something that it's like, well, I've been turning on CNN every morning at 8 o'clock my whole life, so this is what I'm comfortable with, but I think our generation, we're just not as tuned in, to the political, as older generations are. And for that reason, like when we hear about something like Trump going to jail and stuff, for us, that's like, wow, a president is going to jail. I never thought that could happen. It seems surreal, but that's the caption. And those are the little short things that we want to see, and that's I think at the end of the day, it was good that he did that to show, this is what they're doing. You know what I mean? This is where everything is headed, right? And if I make it out of this, I'm doing this, like you said, I'm doing this for you. You know what I mean? And I think that'll wake up a lot of young people.
If he loses, and they put him in jail, he will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
If he wins and he's still in jail, he'll become more powerful. But because he wins, it will have the scandal of governance on him that will kind of bring that down a bit. Does that make sense? So, like the scandal of governance, because governance is, because this is a wicked system, and it is predatorial. He's not going to do everything right by a lot of standards that we would hold. It will kind of taint the thing. But and this is the counterintuitive thing, because people are so desperate for relief from this psychopathic, pushing transgender stuff on kids and going to war, World War III with Russia destroying our dollar, all this insanity. Somebody wants some kind of relief from it. But if they want to play the long game in terms of narrative power, if he goes to jail because that's what I'm trying to show you. Power made perfect in weakness is the principle of Christ. So like the more you pulverize the scapegoat, the more they get powerful. If you pulverize them, let's just make it, you pulverize them plus three, you're going to get some power out of that. You pulverize them plus 10 and you get more power out of it. Right. And that's the counterintuitive thing that a lot of the people on left and right have no idea how that works. And it's like a mystery, but if you understand the gospel, it's not a mystery. You kind of understand what's happening. If he loses, because think about it, America is headed into decline, right? So for his narrative arc, if the last images you see is him in jail and him being paraded, and the American Republic is still rapidly declining, dollars losing its power, inflation is blowing up, he's going to look like a freaking hero, and his message will become very, very transcendent for generations to come. He'll become a bigger figure than he even imagined he could be. He has room to grow still. He still has room to grow on his arc. Right? Which I think he has. I want to say something just real quick. Shane, I know you got something to say, and please hold that thought. I want to say something real interesting that I thought. When he talks, like in that debate with Tucker Carlson, he always talks with such an extraordinary tiredness and sobriety. He doesn't want to. He's not like the original Trump when he ran. When he was, really aggressive and making fun of Rosie O'Donnell. He's matured, and some people might have said you should have matured like when you were 30, not when you're that age. But here's what's interesting about it is that I think he's matured like a person who's had to kill people. And that system of governance, the way the American government system works, if you're president, you're going to be responsible for directly murdering people and taking their life. And I think when Trump was running before, he could talk about Rosie O'Donnell's weight because he was still innocent, probably, of murdering or having somebody murdered. But then once you're a president for 4 years and he's the one saying, yeah, kill that guy. Yeah, drone strike that one. Yeah, do that. I think there's a kind of innocence to him in that. You know what I'm saying? Because he's visibly chastened by what he had to go through. You look at Obama before he ran the White House and after. Yeah, he looks more tired too. But he's still the same TV character. He's very... it's just a TV character. He's everything's just above the fray. But with Trump, he looks chastened. He doesn't look like the same person. He looks like someone who's been visibly shaken because he had to murder people to be a president. And that does something to your soul. If you're somewhat honest with your neighbor, you'll show it on your face.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you're not a cold stone psychopath, you'll show it on your face. Like Hillary Clinton, you can't tell the difference. She's over there sipping tea and cackling. She's having a good time no matter what. She's got that psychopath energy for sure.
Yeah, and she's blowing people up at the same time.
Yeah, she doesn't change. She doesn't change. You don't see Hillary all light and charismatic early on, and then Hillary afterwards, and she's all like, no, well, I had to do stuff. No, it doesn't wear on her. I mean, her evil wears on her, but not like there's no remorse or baggage of the mortality that they've had to extinguish. But Shane, I know you were going to say something.
So the whole Trump thing, I really do think it comes down to, you mentioned like de-dollarization a little while ago. I think it comes down to two different classes in America. And I'm not saying everything goes down to economic classes, but I do think that there is that there is something that the people that largely support Donald Trump have in common, or the people that largely oppose Donald Trump have in common, and the people that support him have in common together. You've got two groups of people. You have kind of the elites that have a real ownership stake in the system. These are people that have inherited wealth. They've inherited assets. They've been fortunate in life, and they've been able to accumulate assets, stocks, real estate, businesses, property, whatever. And a lot of those people, unfortunately, the journalist class, which used to be very blue collar, is very white collar now. Your average journalist working for a newspaper, your average journalist working on cable TV, they come from families that inherit wealth for a living. There's nothing wrong with that, but it makes it really difficult for what you do for a living is you inherit money. It makes it really hard for you to be able to understand what it's like for somebody who has to work to accumulate money to pay their bills. So you have a group of elites that largely hate Donald Trump, that are in charge of the system, that have a vested interest. They're asset owning people. And the thing that they care the most about is all the woke stuff, And then on the other hand, you have the group of people who support Donald Trump, not because they can name you their 5 favorite policies of Donald Trump. The reason that they like Donald Trump is that they have been left behind by the system. They don't own assets, and the prospects are not looking good for them to be able to accumulate them. They're looking down the road, if they're even able to think that far, because of all the turmoil that they're surrounded by. They're thinking down the road, well, what am I going to do for retirement? And they don't see a very bright future ahead. They might be millennials, they might be older people, they might be younger people looking at, am I going to be able to buy a house? Am I going to be able to afford rent? And the answer in both cases for a lot of people is no. And it's because the interest rates are sky high. All this money's been printed. Asset prices have never been higher across the board. And what they're looking around at the system and saying is, there's no way for me to buy into the system. It's too expensive. And so what a lot of these people are looking at Donald Trump as is, they're looking at Donald Trump as a massive wrecking ball, because what they're looking at the system and saying is, look, okay, fine. If you guys are so damn greedy that are in charge of this system, that have inherited it, that have accumulated it, and that own it, if you guys are so greedy that you won't even allow crumbs to fall off the table for your average person, then what we're gonna do is, the one thing that we can do is we're gonna vote to try to send a wrecking ball to try to knock some of the food off of your table, so it can fall down to the floor, so that those of us that you view as being dogs can have something to eat.
Yeah. That's Caesar at the gates of Rome, man.
Yeah, man.
He's coming in with his legion, and that is the one thing that all them senators are afraid of. They don't want that. They fear that, because they know that he has the ear and the eyes of the people. And
they're so stupid. All they had to do, if they wanted to to neutralize all of this, is just give Donald Trump a Medal of Freedom award or something like that for doing the Abraham Peace Accords. You know what I'm saying? Something dumb like that. If they wanted to neutralize him, they could have just patted him on the back and brought him into the fold, and his ego and all that would have taken that. But like, well, Biden's been nice to me, though. He's been nice to me. I don't think I'm going to run. I think they stole it, but he's been really good to me. He gave me a Medal of Freedom. I really appreciate it. Really respects me, says good things about my economy. I don't think I'm going to run. I think I'm going to endorse Ron DeSantis. And that's all that would have been to it. Like, it's so easy. If you're smart for like 5, they're not that smart, They're dumb and violent psychopaths, but they're not that smart. Because if you're smart, David, you could play that Aikido move and just neutralize the whole movement. But because they do this to him, it's going to make their power weaker.
But who is it that's doing that? You see, it's not like people, like us. The people that are trying to stop him are these coastal elites, that are living here,
but they're not
in California and in New England, They're hanging out and they want to hold on to whatever they can, but they don't realize that even them people who they claim to support, even some, I even think some of them LGBTQ people are starting to get a little tired of this. You know what I mean? They're probably like, you know what,
Yeah.
this is not normal. Maybe I am losing my mind. You know what I mean? Everybody. I think this is really going to be a swing in the other direction.
Well, you know what? The only advice I would have for that elite class of people that are really steering the ship is do better. Mm. If they were doing better, then a Donald Trump would not exist, and a Donald Trump would not have any traction. Mm. If their stupid policies were not leading to a global de-dollarization, if they wouldn't have printed so much money for so long that they have to jack up the interest rates, that makes owning assets unaffordable for your average person. But the alternative for them, because they painted themselves into a corner, the alternative is that your average person can't afford to buy groceries or gas. So the thing is, they're incompetent, and that's the problem.
But they're not. They don't. I think the people who really run these maybe you're talking about the mid-level managers, but the people who really run the show, they have an absolute hatred for Americans. They can't stand Americans.
Right.
And they have an ethnic hatred of Russians, and they're going to go try to kill and destroy as much Russians as they can, as many Russians as they can. And if that means destroying the American system, well, they're renters of power. They'll go somewhere else, or they'll live in an enclave in America that's untouched by the decay that they do to America. They don't care about America. They have no loyalty to America. They don't like America. They don't like the people in America. They don't like Christianity. They don't like anything about this place that's good. They hate every aspect of it. They hate the beauty. They took the beauty away. They make our places ugly. Their architecture is ugly, Their forms of punishment are ugly and non-restorative. Their ideas of what is attractive and beautiful is disgusting. They want to make us lavish in seed oil toxicity fueled obesity. These people are not lovers of good. They're mentally bent people, to diabolical purposes, really.
Well,
good riddance to America from their perspective. They don't care. They are sucking this land of its last little bit of resources that they can, and like a flea on the back of a dog, they'll go somewhere else. People who have the means to go around the world can do that. They can go to Paris and go wherever they want.
And you know what? They deserve the wrecking ball then. Because the thing is, and it doesn't matter if they're incompetent or evil or both. It doesn't really matter. What needs to happen from the point of view of populists, of people that do not inherit money for a living, all three of us, what we want is a system that works, that's functional. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's got to be functional. There have got to be enough crumbs that fall from the tabletop to the floor for the rest of us to be able to at least not go to bed hungry every night, and that's the fundamental problem. It's that we have too much wealth is concentrated into the hands of too few. And I'm not saying that as a critique from like a Marxist point of view or anything, because I can't stand Marxists. But what I'm saying is I'm criticizing it because that's a symptom of our system that is that's in failure right now.
But we have the cultural power to be able to change that, but we don't believe it. That's where I always go back to.
Right.
Like, we have the ability to create energy too cheap to meter, but we don't believe we can, so we don't try. We have the ability to create things that would destroy these parasites, right? Because their parasitical power comes from this kind of arbitrary scarcity that they've been able, this kind of artificial scarcity that they've been able to maintain. They've kept us in the dark ages. And once the public understands how far warped and distorted our medicine is and our energy and the things that we could do with that, it's game over for those people. So many people make money just paper pushing in stocks and, stocks into companies that are based on stuff from 100 years ago that are obsolete. you know, and their wars are based on energy that was discovered 100-something years ago. You know, their prison system and their regulatory apparatus are meant to protect drugs that were created like 100 years ago that are outdated, obsolete, garbage products. And they can't, and so we have to push them out. It's not through political. Really, it's from, in my opinion, the political revolution is the danger, right? Cultural revolution is the solution. You know, technological revolution is the solution, right? That's the solution. But people are afraid of that because they're afraid that, well, you know, it'll open up a whole new can of worms. So it's a Stockholm syndrome, you know, like I'm afraid to get outside of the predatorial system I'm in because, my goodness, what will I do with that freedom? There'll be all kinds of other problems. So I think I'll be content with this gasoline thing and this stupid fake electric car grid thing. And you know, they're just picking apart what it means to be happy about being a human. You can't even have incandescent light bulbs anymore, which give you a different kind of light. Sorry, Shane, LED lights don't have, I'm just teasing you, but he likes LEDs. But incandescent light incandescent light creates a kind of glow and a nice light that you can't ever get with LEDs. LEDs just can't replicate it, even when they try. And they're trying to ban incandescence. They're trying to ban, what is it, gas stoves now are banned. You know, they're trying to do everything they can to like eliminate the romance and whimsy of life, you know, like the juice of life. They don't want to have any of that. The only juice they promise is endless sexual pleasure, right? That's the one thing that they offer, but that is a depleting thing, right? I mean, you can only live on that island so long.
That and the you know, the whole green revolution, you know what I mean? The whole ecological,
that's a disaster.
Thing. You know, you know, people, I've seen articles that have been written that say, you know, it's akin to idolatry. You know, because young people have turned themselves into sort of these religious zealots over that. You know, saying you know, global warming and you know all this stuff. And me, you know, I don't know. I mean, I can't really understand most of that anyway, so I just throw it in the garbage. And I'm like, whatever. You know what I mean? I got stuff to do. You know, but maybe it's because I come from an earlier generation where we didn't pay attention to that as much as a lot of these younger generations are, you know, but they've funneled that into their brain, you know what I mean? And made them think that we're in this sort of apocalyptic, you know, like our world's going to end if we don't start taking care of the seals and the whales and you know, and recycle and, you know, all of that. Right. You know, it's you know, to me, it's sort of corny. You know, I'm like, that's not even like, I don't even take that seriously. And maybe I probably shouldn't say that because you know, they probably cancel me because that seems to be like the biggest thing that young people are so concerned about. You know, Greta Thunberg got us all losing our minds, right?
It's true that. It's true. The climate thing seems to be their junior varsity concern narrative. You know what I mean? Like you got, you know, like the racial grievance stuff is young too, but that tends to gravitate more to the older millennials and up. But then like the young millennials down to Gen Z and lower are all inundated with the climate propaganda. You know what I mean? So it's like this weird, you know, there's like a gradient there. Like when they're like, well, we can't really push. I mean, they do, but you know, we really can't push like police brutality videos on 5-year-olds, but we can tell them that seals are dying. You know what I mean? We can sell them on that grievance trauma. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It's weird like that.
You know, are they motivated more by a hatred of America and Christianity or humans, Shane? Which one? Who do they hate most? Humans itself? Because I think that, and I've talked about it a lot, they're anti-human.
I think it's humans.
Yeah, they hate humans.
Well, and the reason I say that
makes you wonder if it's Satan running the show, right? You know.
Well, exactly. Well, you know, the thing is, when you hear what a lot of these greenies and stuff are talking about, is they're saying that humans reproducing is the problem. You know, that humans are the problem. You know, children are the problem. You know, you know, if you just go and hear them out, that's what they will tell you is and that's one of the reasons that those people are always abortion and contraception adjacent. You know, well, at the beginning of this year, Tony Blinken, Stacey Abrams, and a lot of these people went to Nigeria to go and interfere in their election to try to push abortion, contraception, and gay marriage on them. You know, because what they don't like about Nigeria is every woman has on average like 6 kids or something, and that's exactly what they don't want.
Yeah,
they want fewer people born.
Yeah.
And I do think that that is satanic.
I posted on Twitter, they can't arrest 100 million people. And some folks said no, but they can and will starve them to death. Jason Miranchuk said that. Another one says they're foxes, not lions. It is in their nature to cowardly rid themselves of enemies. Another one says, I'm afraid that's what debanking is for, unfortunately. What do you think of that? Do you think of this? Another one says, see what they did in the Soviet Union. A very high percentage were arrested and many brutally killed. The rest were too afraid to speak out under the surveillance state. What do you think of that? Do you think that they're going to do a Soviet Union style hellscape in America? Or will it be like a kind of like using cataclysms to starve people out? You know, they're trying to make it difficult to afford your food as it is. And they can ration it out attached to a CBDC or social credit score type system.
You know, honestly, I think it's just going to be a slow grind. You know, if you go back to the Obama administration, they were talking about having a goal. I don't remember exactly where this was, but they were talking about having a goal of making electricity like 2 to 3 times more expensive for your average American. And the reason was to incentivize Americans to consume less energy because of global global warming is what they called it at that time, but now they call it climate change. You know, I think it's just going to be a slow grind. I think they're going to intentionally manage things in such a way to try to make the cost of the cost of food at the grocery store, the cost of gasoline, the cost of electricity, you know, more expensive, to make it so that your average person who's on a budget, so that the only rational choice they have is to consume less, to cut back on the amount of meat they're eating, to cut back on their driving, to cut back on, you know, instead of keeping their thermostat at 75, maybe they keep it at 80 instead, you know. And the thing is, when you live in the Northwest, you know, keep you know, not running your AC that's not a very big deal. But if you live in Florida or Texas or anywhere in the South during the summertime, the AC is essential. You know, people can't.
Yeah,
you know,
I've wondered about these psychopaths.
People can't live here without AC.
These psychopaths are going to use air conditioning and electricity as a tool to hurt the South, right? Florida, Texas, to get them to.
Well, they're going to use our heat to do the same thing up here. You know, we turn our electricity off.
Oh yeah, freeze you out.
You can't turn that thing up past 65. So
and you know, and the way they'll probably sell it to you is they'll say we'll give you heat credits as long as you agree to eat these cricket burger patties, you know, like,
or that they're redeemable with the cricket burgers. You get more of them.
Listen,
like if you get
I'll tell them I'm going out hunting for some deer meat, bro. I'll survive. I'll do it myself.
They're going to say hunting for deer is white supremacy, though, Shannon. You know.
Well, then, hey, you know what? In that case, white power.
and what they'll tell you is the only way to redeem yourself is to go and eat the cricket patties. You know, and in fact, you know what? In fact, they'll probably make you just eat live crickets.
Yeah.
You know, as
in front of everybody. That's my punishment.
Yeah, exactly.
live. This is, eat the crickets.
We didn't know that Fear Factor was just a coming attraction, right? That was a Fear Factor was just marketing what they're going to feed us for dinner.
Right. Right.
Some people online are saying that it's going to be about kind of like the unity that Trump might experience if he continues to be persecuted in this way. A rapper named Chief Keef, I guess, according to Dom Lucre, says that the President Trump is about to have all the blacks on his side. The 2024 election will be a landslide. Democrats force the street culture on Black America. It's poetic justice because that culture supports mugshots. They dug their own grave. Do you think that's going to be a factor in this? That the more they, yeah.
You don't even have to finish that. Yes, yes. Because the thing is that he became the symbol of whatever, people feel like they go to jail. They've been wronged. The mugshot, all that speaks to, even if it is the culture of crime and everything, it appeals to them. And they're gonna ride with that, and they're right. They're right. Yes, they're all gonna gravitate towards that.
Yeah, a commenter named Kay says Democrats miscalculated this one. Many people in the hood see it like this: the government, the current administration, Democrats are doing to Trump what they do to us, lock us up only because they don't like us. The Democrats turned Trump into Nelson Mandela, and they don't even know it. Here's the proof. If Biden wins the next election, 100% without a doubt, it is rigged. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is going to believe Biden will get more votes than Trump. Nobody. So.
Well, and that's the thing. Nobody knows what it's like to have the system oppress them, like Black America. The Tuskegee experiments, the forced the Carnegie Endowment back at like the early 20th century during the whole eugenics movement, they were forcibly
sterilizing women.
Yes, sterilizing women, like down in Mississippi and Alabama and places like that. And it's been the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And there are a lot of factors to it, but all you have to do is look at who makes up the majority of the prison population. And that didn't just happen by chance. So I guess what my only point is that they know what it's like to have the boot of the system come down on them. And when they see it on Donald Trump, I think they can identify with it,
Scott Greer says, he's a commentator. He says, this is why the feds and Alvin Bragg never insisted on a mugshot. Fani Willis wasn't smart enough to understand the power of such an image. What do you think of that?
That's the chickens coming home to roost, man.
Yeah.
Do you think she's that dumb to not know? Or do you think that she calculated that in, that he'll become a folk hero and she thinks that's okay?
I think whatever she was doing for herself. She just had a goal in mind, and that was to become something higher than what she is right now.
Everybody hates this guy. If I get him, then I'll be the hero. Right.
Right.
Well, and that's the thing, David. They exist in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
it's a small enclave of people that
Yep.
Hanging out at nice
they're
restaurants.
all reaffirming. Yeah, and they're all constantly reaffirming their reality. They get on little panel shows on CNN or MSNBC or anything, and when they see everybody on the panel all agree, they assume, oh, that's everybody in America. They don't go and hang out with real people. They don't go and work and hang out with working class people.
And if they do, they won't tell nobody about it. They keep it on the hush hush.
You're saying every Fani Willis needs to have an Oliver Anthony on speed dial to get feedback.
Yes.
How's this going to play, Oliver? Right.
Right.
He's going to say the dollar ain't.
Right, right. Yeah, man. You know, so yeah, they're not hearing nobody. You
But
know,
people like that, they look at people like Oliver Anthony like a relic from like the Munchkins from the Wizard of Oz, you know, like a creature. They don't even see them as like a legitimate human anymore. I'm serious, right?
I love the Yellow Brick Road.
The liberal establishment and you know, this new neoliberal establishment in the cities, they look at somebody twanging on a banjo in a tree in the trees like, what? This is something from like a museum, you know? This isn't even a thing anymore.
Well,
You know, like what a pit. Like I think they like it with bemusement. Like, what is this thing? This is a relic from like a cartoon. This is
well, you know what? Not to regular, you know, urban, you know, even people living in the city are listening to him. These are urban kids. They're tuning into that song. You know, they're listening to him, and that can, just like Trump's mugshot. That dude, you know, he might be a munchkin or whatever, but they're listening to his words, and they hear what he's saying, and I think they identify with that. They sympathize with it because it's happening to them. You know, they you know, regardless of where you live geographically, you know, we can all feel that. You know, that sense of anger and, you know, maybe a little bit of resentment. You know, something got to give, kind of attitude. You know.
I want to know how they're going to say they're the resistance when all their political opponents are arrested. Like, what are they the resistance to at this point? Dissent? Freedom?
Yeah.
I'm talking about the average Joe going along with this thing because they're the ones giving these people power.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If we could break that stronghold over their mind, this is game over. Those elites can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you notice, what the elites try to do is they try to turn oppression into something purely ideological. They want it to be purely ideas, because if you start thinking about, if you start introducing anything socioeconomic into the considerations of oppression, then the people who are the class, the elite class of journalists that are the ones that are defining who the oppressors and who the victims are and everything, those people that are defining those roles are the oppressor class. Those are the people, that's the possessed class. Those are the ones that have assets. And so the thing is, it's really hard when you have somebody who's earning like 6 or 7 figures a year, who owns like a beach house, who has an apartment, and then has like a house in the mountains or something. It's really hard to take them seriously when they're sitting there saying, oh, this person is oppressing this person. Because really what I think they're trying to do is they're trying to spin up all this woke stuff. They're injecting all this woke stuff into the system so that they can confound everybody with it, so that they can get everybody fighting and bickering about it, because they know that all this woke stuff is stupid, that it's nonsense, and your average person hates it.
Yeah.
But that's
so
the
woke
stuff they want us
is
to rail against.
The woke stuff is a psyop distraction. Yeah.
That's what I think.
So they know how
it's real. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's real. Like they're, it's being introduced to curriculum and stuff around the country.
Herbert
that's
Marcuse,
real, but I think they're injecting it on purpose.
Herbert Marcuse, the professor who created like a lot of the foundation for critical theory, he came out of the intelligence community.
He was evil, yeah.
And Dr. Ray Peat mentioned that Noam Chomsky, who's not really a wokester, but he still was like a transitionary fossil to where there are now. He said he was on the take with the intelligence community. A lot of these guys come from the intelligence community.
Well, and Noam Chomsky was also best friends or very good friends with Jeffrey Epstein, and I believe he took money from Jeffrey Epstein too, right?
Jeffrey Epstein is the school of foreign policy that Nikki Haley comes from.
Yes,
she comes from that foreign policy school.
Well, I'm glad more people are paying attention now to Dr. Thomas Sowell rather than Dr. Chomsky. Yes. You know what I mean? When Ramaswamy got up there and said we have a problem of fatherlessness in this country, he was reading something somewhere from Thomas Sowell.
Yeah.
That was straight out of Sowell's book right there, man.
So from an anthropological standpoint, I see this as a very vicious apocalyptic challenge to the legitimacy of the state for them doing this to him, because it's going to ruin the shame power of going to prison for people who, like, okay, like the inner city culture, like you were mentioning, Shannon, that have kind of celebrated going to jail and getting a mugshot as like a sign of like a rite of passage and legitimacy. That's one subculture. But the average middle class, white America hasn't really adopted that yet, although the young folks do through the hip hop culture and that kind of thing, right? But there's still, it hasn't really caught on to boomers and all, people in suburban America too much. But this is going to bring that home more, right? It's going to ruin the shame of it. And what it does is it does a lot of things. It's a kind of healing thing too. It's a cathartic thing in some sense, because it's like if a billionaire white guy like Donald Trump has to get railroaded, then the black community can start to say, man, I guess it wasn't all just about white supremacy. I guess the system itself and those who benefit from power are going to railroad anybody. I guess all this lie I've been hearing that this is only predating my community is not true, because if a white president guy can get screwed over by the system, then I guess it wasn't always really, white supremacy driven. And that viscerally will be felt by a lot of folks in that community to reconsider what's really driving this system.
Yeah.
The other thing is the losing the shame is going to go a long way to destroying the regulatory nanny state, in my opinion. Because it's like, again, people are afraid to take bold action because they're afraid, man, they'll go after me for, you can come up with a crime for anything, right? They'd have 50,000 crimes a day or whatever. People, what is it that book says people commit like 5 felonies a day or whatever? They don't even know it. And it's like, there's such a labyrinthine amount of regulatory laws that people who want to do something good and speak truth and be bold and be a righteous influence, they hedge their bets because they're afraid they'll be a target. But when the president himself has been brought into the belly of the whale and is still coming out of it fine, that gives power and strength to people to say, you know what, if he can go through it at his age and at his if he can have that big of a so-called fall, and he's still fine, and he's still got fans, and he's still got power, and he's still got his grit, then I could go through it too. So screw it. If they want to persecute me because I spoke out on Twitter or something, then screw it. See what I mean? That's going to embolden more dissidents. Yeah. Which is going to destroy the scapegoat mechanism's ability to create unanimity and power and control and coercion. So this is, if the state has teeth, this whole process of doing this to Trump, take a file to those teeth. You're dulling those teeth with this, man. You're dulling the state's teeth. And of course, they're only, like you're saying, Shane and others, the only trick they have is to use crises to get their power back. You get what I'm saying? But for the grace of some kind of new pandemic they're cooking up, or some kind of other, manufactured crisis or a nuclear war, they don't aliens. They can't, the state, the nanny state can't survive normal reality after this. It's only crises are going to be able to get people to get back in line. Does that make sense? Which is scary.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, but they've already tried it in both ways, with the health pandemic and everything, and with this Ukraine war, and that's not working either. Right? Because now everybody's starting to get agitated with that. We keep on sending billions of dollars to a country that nobody knows about. You know what I mean? People are waking up to that. They said there's some bullshit, man. You know what I mean?
Well, and and this is the thing. If you're a leader, you have a responsibility to look out for the interest of those that you're in charge of. If you're a father, you have a responsibility to look out for your family. Same thing if you're a mother. if you are a president, if you are if you're an employee in the federal government, you're to be looking out for the best interest of the people that you're in charge of, the people that put you in power. You're not supposed to be looking out for the best interest at as much as they may deserve help or not deserve help, whatever. You know, people in Ukraine are not your responsibility.
Right. The people in Maui, are your responsibility.
100%.
And you let them burn to a crisp.
Yep. And they think that they can just dole out $700 checks to the people in Maui and then keep the billions of dollars of weapons flowing to the Ukraine, and that somehow that's going to be okay. Hell no. Yeah, you know. But yeah, so I really what I and this is something it's inherent in all of us. We know that when humans are tribal and they're relational. We understand ourselves as we understand ourselves in terms of our relationships to others. And if you have someone that is, let's say, an absentee father, or you have someone that's abandoned their family, or if you have a bad king, or you have a bad president or something, we know that they're bad because they're not looking out for the interest of those that they're in charge of. They're not advocates. That doesn't mean that they have to be popular, but they're not looking out for the long-term interests of the people that they represent. And that would go for monarchies, that would go for oligarchies, that would go for republics like what we are. And the problem is that our leadership in this country, and it's been this way, it's been a slow grind, it's been gradually getting to this point for a long time, but we've become top heavy with people that are not looking out for the best interest of the people that they're supposed to be governing. In other words, of the people that they're supposed to be advocates for. They're advocating for their own personal interests, and they're advocating for the interests of people that are not here, for this fictitious abstract concept of some far off person that needs help, but they can never give you a name of this abstract person.
Vivek really ticked off all those politicians in that debate because he was saying, you guys keep groveling to your Pope Zelensky over there while people were suffering. And you could see they were snarling with anger. Every one of them was screaming and yelling at him at the same time.
And he's the youngest. He's the youngest. That's why they made him mad, even more mad.
Yeah, but
elders don't like when young people talk.
That's right.
But it's like, what he's saying there is true, though, that this is a religious desire that is motivating people to do these things, this desire to, police the world. But really what's going on is it's oligarchs, oligarchs that run our system have handpicked. And they got really mad when he said, I'm the only one here who's not bought and paid for, and you could hear all of them screaming into the making all that noise because, these people are horrible human beings. Like they're empty vessels. They are the Benedict Arnolds times 100. They're selling out people. They're going up to old ladies in South Carolina like Tim Scott and Nikki Haley, and they're sweet talking them while they destroy every vestige of everything those people care about, including their health and their families and their grandchildren's future. They're despicable people, really. They're despicable. The things that these people are doing to sweet talk, because a lot of their money comes from these older people, and when it's not the oligarch PAC money, it's these, retirees just sending all these dutiful checks. Oh, that person sounds real nice. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And they're the worst con artist trash you could imagine. And what does the Bible talk about those who go against widows, and the elderly, God has
they're like them TBN guys, get this holy water.
Yeah.
If you buy this holy water, this is straight from my faucet.
But they're a million times worse because those guys, well, some of them do, but they don't, they're not out there like literally trying to send missiles to blow up Russians and Ukrainians. And those sick pigs like Mike Pence and Nikki Haley on there saying, well, this is a good war because we can fight Russia without having to kill any of our people, just Ukrainians. And it's like, you sick freaks. You guys are sick, murderous psychopaths. I want to get up on them JV debates and just tell them like it is. You know what I mean? Because you can see someone like Vivek, who's like way still holding back on maybe intentionally or not. He's just not quite got the zip that the world really wants to hear. The zip is saying that, you guys keep talking about this, Ukraine war. Have you, I would say something like, have you guys noticed, I would look at the camera and say, have you noticed that every Republican presidential debate, there's always some existential crisis war that we have to fight? Have you ever noticed that? Every one of these people are going to say that if we don't get rid of Putin over here, he's going to come over here. They did that with Assad 4 years ago. They did that with Saddam, 10 years, 12 years ago, whatever. It's just on and on and on. These incessant pleas to some crazy guy that's going to destroy the world. These people are bought and paid for, sellouts, for merchants of death, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone you look at, they're going to scream. They're going to try to tickle your ears with fear that these people sell nothing but death.
Yes.
These are murderous pigs. And the reason why your chicken's high right now and your eggs are high is because these psychopaths like Chris Christie and Nikki Haley are inflating your dollar for oligarchs who couldn't care less if you're in misery and suffering. That's what they need to say in those debates to really rip open the facade.
Yes.
And even Trump doesn't say that. Trump, for whatever reason, is still in that boomer fantasy that, it's a corrupt system. But he doesn't understand. He doesn't at least speak like in that Tucker Carlson debate. He doesn't speak to what time it really is. He's still, Tucker asked him 2 times point blank, you think they're going to kill you? And he would not answer.
Right.
He would say, they're vicious people. They're vicious. They're horrible. Did a horrible thing. They cut my mic or what, it's like, no, I'm asking. He went back to it again. Are they going to try to kill you? And he's like, look, there's a horrible passion out there. There's horrible passion. And he just would not answer that question. Just like he wouldn't answer the Epstein question either, which is interesting. But we don't really know to what extent what's going on behind the scenes with all these slithering little monsters. But one thing's for sure is these are interesting times. This is an apocalyptic time. It's a scary time. You need to learn how to grow some food if you can, just to have a little bit of a familiarity. Shane, I know you're a big believer in people learning how to grow their own gardens and food. So thank you for doing that. You're doing a great job there.
Yeah, well, thank you.
And Shannon,
I'll do my part and go learn how to hunt, guys.
Yeah, there you go.
Amen. Yes.
Right. Very good. All right. Thanks, guys. It's been another great conversation, and we'll talk again soon.
All right.
Thank you, David.
If you want to email us, you can. hello@aneighborschoice.com. Godspeed.